let's do this. Go.
Not yet. Oh, are we recording right now?
It is. But I want to check.
Oh, okay. Alright, guys. Hope that. Alright. Why am I trying to say this is the end of the video? No. Okay. So, guys, last time you saw us, me and Jake were playing Smash Bros. And for a little while, Frank, you saw Frank went out a little bit. But yeah, and we have Jenna here today, and she's also another cousin. And when I was going on the iPad, I was actually saying, like, let's watch YouTube. She's like, yeah, let's watch YouTube. I was like, you know it? I was like, I am on there. And I was like, well, I'm going to let you go on the video. So here we are on the video today. Yeah, so we're going to do...
Hi, guys. Hi, guys.
Yeah, so...
How do you know we're doing the Switch
Alright, so,
today?
yeah, we're doing the Switch today. So we got, we got these cool games.
And we're playing Mario
Deluxe. Alright,
Yeah.
I'm going to be...
And Jake and Will are going first.
Yeah, we're going to go first. Then John, Frank will
This
go.
is my first time on the Nintendo Switch.
Yep, and...
I don't even know what this game is.
Mario Kart.
I like it. It's cool.
Very good.
I almost got on Twitter.
We were going to do a football video. We
Let's
figured out
go
how to.
50.
Let's go on it.
Do a battle.
Oh.
What do you do?
Okay.
What do I do? I'm pressing A. You gotta push this button. We're doing a YouTube video. What? I'm pressing
That's
these.
my aunt. Here.
That's our aunt.
Press A.
Hey. That's our aunt. That's our aunt.
Okay. So,
We're actually on
none of
YouTube.
y'all actually...
We're actually on YouTube. And Jenna is right. Who can play what? Ooh, it's cute. No, it isn't. Smell my hair.
That's aunt. That's our aunt.
Okay. Can you smell my hair? Wait, who's flipping boy?
Me. Guys, so yeah, we're going to do a wall video. I'll show when it's Frank and Jake's turn. Frank and Jake's turn. Not Frank and Jake. I meant Jenna. So confusing. We're gonna let them.
Which ones are good
I'll show
wheels?
you.
Are these good wheels?
Yeah, just choose whatever you want to.
I'm choosing.
I choose a random stuff every time.
I'm just.
So, yeah, Jenna's new. I told you we were gonna have more cousins here. Please leave a like for her. Okay. I really want
You didn't know I'm Jake.
Yeah, if you did not know, I'm Will, which this is my YouTube channel. That's
This is Frank. I'm Jake.
And that's Jenna. You just joined.
If you didn't see the last video, this is Jake.
Just please stop. We already introduced ourselves. Stop.
Okay, I think we should do.
You better not cry like last time.
I won't.
Yes, you did. Last time you cried you cry almost all the videos, Frank. Every time you lose.
You can choose one. If you
Okay.
want me to get out, that's fine.
No. Okay. I found my level.
Firefly.
I'm using these two, and we are at a beach right now, so that's why our rooms look different.
Hey.
We're at a beach, so
That's my favorite level. I want that one. Okay.
let's choose different ones. So you choose something else.
That's my favorite level.
Sorry.
I'm going to split two, boy.
I am loading.
3, 2,
Please.
1. Good. I'm in dry bones. This is good. This is good. I'm already in 5th place. I'm in 3rd place. I'm pretty good. Gotta watch out for my red shell. Get back to fucking really hard track. Super cool. Not for me. I'm kind of.
He's doing the regular one. I
have no idea about this. Ow. That hurt. Not only in 4th place. That's because you hate. What? Alright. Seriously.
Why do you guys have our speech lovers watching this?
Sorry.
And they're not gonna subscribe. Frank. Holy cow, I don't know. Seriously, when I have 30 minutes, I know that was someone. Alright, Jake's doing good with split two. Not that bad. I'm still learning this.
I know fast.
Yeah.
But I think easy.
I think I'm gonna start.
Maybe not.
Especially when they bump into me in Super Mario, I might die.
Hey guys.
I'm sorry if there's Cuba fans here.
How are you?
I just really don't like them in this game because you can run into them. So you die.
Hey guys. I'm teaching now.
Okay. You're just acting weird now. Here. You don't say one single thing about yourself again. Like, you said a couple minutes you were stupid. No one said that. That's gonna be the last time I said that.
I'm not.
You said that, and it feels like if you do that one more time, I'm not gonna say anything else. It's just gonna have to be your idea. Your thing.
Yeah, purple. Why is he getting a lot of purple?
Because this
Just
level,
say that in the comments. Why is he getting a lot?
because there's people, there's a lot of turns, and they're so long.
He's behind you, Will.
I'm behind you. Now, there's no helping in this video, got it? So, Frank, but we're supposed to have fun, and all you do is cry because you're not in first place. Okay, I won, right?
I'm strong.
You cry one more time, we're gonna have to stop. Yeah, we're gonna have to stop you being in Mario Kart videos.
Jenna, why are you in?
I mean, I'm only in third place.
Why is
Why is it hard?
I guess I can myself. Let's just go by
Well,
myself.
we're gonna have to do this, okay? Are you gonna join us? Or are you gonna do something else?
Okay, I'm not by myself.
Whatever.
What's the name?
No. Alright, do you wanna go with Frank next?
Or do you want us to keep on playing?
Frank, because I can't keep on playing. Don't make the video too short, and just like Smash Bros, we have to figure out what to do. He cried. No. Frank did. Okay. He cried in one. He cries in thousands of videos. I'm starting to get.
You didn't make thousands of videos. I'm sorry.
You cry a lot.
Get back to grandmother.
I should cry.
I'm just a little kid. No fits, grandmother.
Frank, you're saying words that kids can't say. And you need to stop with the bad words, because what if little kids are watching?
Okay, I'm sorry guys, but I'm not even gonna make rooms and I want the kids to watch this video. If I need to
Yes, but you have to pause the race, or you'll just have to get out of it.
Do you want me to go myself or do you want me to go?
Do what y'all want. And I can't see very good. I can. Oh, I jumped over.
You just use that bumper?
Okay.
Okay. No, there's
No. Really? Frank, I heard it was a top. You were actually. Frank, if I say something one more time about you, I'm gonna lose it. No, it's kind of down for you to say that.
And plus, when little kids say, "Oh, bad Say this.
No, Ryan, please. Say it one more time, and you're gonna have to stop something about these videos. I don't know, who made you so positive and worried and think you're gonna die and say a bunch of bad words? And you're really
Be
not
careful,
supposed
Will.
to.
There's a blue shell coming. I saw it. It went past it. Told you. And it wasn't me. I promise.
Listen, oh.
It actually wasn't. I just saw it flew past me.
You know what? I believe you. I believe you. That was mine. Yeah, you need to.
Oh, I got ghost.
I don't know what you're saying about these stuff in this video because no one has ever talked about themselves about being dumb. Well, you know what I mean. I'm not gonna say that word. Well, it seems like you are. It's not really helping for a little. Really? I just said stop talking about yourself. Really, Chris. Really. Oh. You're not sensitive. Last time we've been Mario Kart when you were so happy and you weren't talking anything about yourself. You're gonna have to.
I think I will.
You change it this way, cause
that was me.
Right. We already just said welcome to the video, and I'm going to say the first word we're going to say is hi. Can't beat you today. You say, what? This dude,
I'm just kidding. You can't see my finger, but I'm pointing at them. I'm player 2, who's the boy.
Ink boy, whatever. This is
I'm Ink
boy. Last night, Jake said he wasn't tired today, and he woke up like 4 times last night and he cried. He went to the bathroom.
I miss my mom and dad. They're not here.
I know, they're not. Again, if you didn't hear from last video, we're spending the night. We are not taking care of her. We are, but still, we are not the people that's taking care of her. That's mom and dad. Playing with us. Yeah, that's right.
You're not letting me eat.
Eat, please.
Yeah, that's what he talking. Yeah. Oh yeah, Mom and Dad, if you are watching this, thumbs up the video, and I actually ate meat today. I like it. And it's meat that I just tried. And you guys make it a lot. Okay.
I don't.
Why is that?
I need like a little fixing because seriously, I'm running into everything right now.
Me too. This is a tough level.
No, but these controllers, they're not helping. I wish we brought that thing. Seriously, Frank. You watch 1,000 of YouTube, like FTTers, $1.
You watch $1. Yes, you
have. I watch them and they never talk about themselves. They never say like, I have this. And you're just saying that I'm not gonna talk anymore. It's kind of funky and weird. Please turn on my phone. Please. That's all I want to hear.
Maybe after the video.
Maybe after something. idea probably not even know. It's like the 500 characters. Whatever. Oh, I thought that was the last row. We can't hear anything, but y'all can, so... Yeah, we can't hear if we win or did.
But we can always look.
And this is a tiny screen. We do not need TV. The TV wouldn't work. Oh, great.
We're just looking at
We're not trying to scare you. We're looking at the TV won't work, guys.
That's because we have a TV.
We have a TV. Well, it will. For the Switch it will, but the video it won't. I was gonna make a Woodwall video, but it seems like we can't. But we didn't bring some wire. I wish I was not hitting it now. How do you know?
I do. It always does it.
No, it doesn't.
It always follows you until it gets close.
Alright, green. I don't know what he was doing. I know, I see her right at the door. Eating applesauce.
For some reason.
Frank, you are finishing my sentence.
Alright.
What?
They said then Frank and somebody.
We're not done yet. This is level.
What's the last level? No, it's. Yeah, that's the last one.
Oh yeah, it's final race.
I like this level.
I think it has to stop. Oh, I think so. What's here, boy? I'm not.
I'm feeling tried out.
Why is Starbucks so quick?
I don't know.
Frank, we all do. He was asking me. Seriously? Really? I mean, come on!
I'm already in first place.
Oh, I see. You hit whoa, you
I didn't move the hand on fire. Man, why am I in first place? Why am I in first? Get back to Cat Beach.
You don't, I do.
You can ask him.
I'm still learning yoga. I'm still learning yoga. Summertime, don't give up. No. Jacob, seriously, I feel like he's doing the same step. Yeah. See, he's doing the same. He's going the same way I am. Like something golden. Like I seriously. I don't think so. Hold on. Are you trying to look at me and then copy me? What? Are you trying to be American? You did not know American. Yokai who.
Wait, what?
There's Uncle John now. I'm trying to make some YouTube videos. Really? Seriously. Frank. What? But you're talking about other people. That's kind of embarrassing. Some people probably don't want to.
There's nothing wrong with you.
Really? And that's all good now. Here it comes. Alright. Look, come on, come on. Come on to the yokai. Really?
Impossible!
I don't know. I'm not. It's the same word. I know there's names of these little guys. wheel. There we go. Need a speed bump.
Is it no kind of only says his name?
Yeah.
Nice.
No way.
No way! Basically, you have to top hit them backwards.
Remember, not when. Alright, we're almost done.
We're almost done.
Alright, started it.
We're almost done. I just need to finish one more lap.
There.
Look at my thumb now. It's over.
Who wants to see my thumb?
I'll play one lap or two laps.
Yeah, y'all go brush your teeth, me and Frank will finish it out.
Look at my thumb.
Okay, now what's your
Guys, almost not to brush your teeth.
Hey.
I want to be first.
Alright, we're just gonna play one quick game, okay?
Wait, all the levels?
Just one quick round. Ooh.
This is your file.
Oh, is it? Good.
That was my file.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's this file. Well, and then my dad's helping me.
50 or 100. Alright, go brush your teeth, guys. Here, Jenna, you want?
No, she doesn't want to play.
Now let's get this going.
Found it.
I'll do that one, right?
Wait, yeah. What are those? Wait, yeah. Donnie! This wheels are kind of fast. Hey, we picked the same wheel.
Alright, which one do you want?
I want the 5 level.
Huh?
I want the 5 level. That's my favorite. I'm good at all of this.
Order some back.
Hey. No, I want to try to sleep by myself. Okay. That was actually comfortable.
Okay, good.
I can't do it. I'm not good at this.
Which one do you like? You like the like this one when it's infinite?
Did you read that thing?
I forgot how to turn off the gas. I forgot how to play this.
I don't know.
No, I forgot.
I'm third. She'll hit Pete.
Where is
She's behind us.
Pete?
I don't have an ID.
Pete?
I'm not here. So, I'm gonna eat it. Yeah. I'm in third. Yeah. Yeah, I think in front of you. Right? In front of you still. See what they can do now?
Really has
Go, go, go. No, I think we're Frank's gonna win. Go, Frank, go. Or you over the top. Yeah, and the comet. No. Congrats. Hold on a second. I want something new. Have you seen a video that I'm talking about, like, having a child
Yeah.
on this? No,
Wii U. Alright.
It says time's up. And if somebody's getting
Alright.
bullied,
Will, take us out.
hold on. I hope you enjoyed this video. So it is 9:51, so it is time for bed for everyone. Hope that will have a good night. Bye. Bye.
Say bye, Frank.